afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I would like to welcome you here in Caldes de Montbui, one of the member towns of the European Historic Thermal Towns Association. And as an executive director of this association, I'm very proud to be the moderator of this afternoon, and you're all welcome. And I would like to say a big thermal hello to, first of all, the mayors of thermal towns and thermal villages, but also to all the thermal friends and colleagues here in the room today. We have the Café of Europe this afternoon, and we are looking at thermal power in rural areas. We will speak about the development and the importance of thermal villages and thermal towns. And I hope you have an exciting afternoon with great insights, a lot of information, and maybe new inspirations. And a special welcome, because he's standing across from me and taking pictures, is the president of the scientific committee of our association, who has developed the concept of the Café of Europe and who you will meet later. For the moment, I would like to give the floor, first of all, to our president of the European Historic Thermal Towns Association. He is the president of the region of Ourense, and regrettably, he cannot be with us this afternoon, so he prepared a message for you. His welcome speech will come from the video, and I am just giving the digital floor to my president, and I wish you a really great afternoon. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm sorry not to be with you this afternoon, but important personal matters keep me away today, even though I would very much like to be with you to see and experience Caldes de Montbui myself. Firstly, I would like to congratulate the European Historic Thermal Towns Association Scientific Committee and the town of Caldes de Montbui. Together we are taking another step of showing a little known aspect of thermal water, the many uses it can have over and above the traditional trio of bathing, drinking and inhalation, which has been the basis of treatments in all the towns in our networks for hundreds of years. Thermal water is a natural product and is used around the globe in so many ways, and there, in Caldes de Montbui, there are many exciting examples of how thermal water is used in diverse ways, making it the perfect place to introduce this theme of opportunities for rural development in thermal villages. As the president of a largely rural province with many small thermal towns and villages, I'm interested to hear how the presence of thermal water can be used as a driver for rural development and can give these places opportunities for growth over and above the potential of increased public interest in the health and wellness benefits of visit to thermal spa towns. In our cultural route, the European route of historic thermal towns, we are used to telling the story of how thermal springs have been the catalyst for the development of settlements, even to great towns and cities. Last year, we looked at the early beginnings of this story in our Café of Europe in São Pedro do Sul. Some of our towns have now even become World Heritage Sites as the great spa towns of Europe. As we come out of the pandemic, we are looking forward to the rediscovery by the public of the benefits of visiting our historic thermal towns, not only as health and well-being destinations, but as centers of culture and heritage too. As our Thermal Travels campaign shows, we have a great deal to offer our guests. COVID has taught us that nothing can be taken for granted, and the global energy crisis, which is now evolving as a direct result of the war in Ukraine, will force us to change again in many ways. Although this change is insignificant compared to the suffering endured by those in the war zone. Our thermal towns have responded generously to the humanitarian crisis in Ukraine and have directly contributed to the welfare of many refugees who have fled to the Ladek area. Small thermal towns like Ladek continue to protect the spirit of hospitality and welcome for which our towns are famous, even in difficult circumstances. As responsible and sustainable destination, our thermal towns have also to be mindful of energy use, and we are lucky to have natural thermal power bubbling up from beneath our feet in many of our towns. We must now be creative, and as the climate crisis depends, and new approaches and strategies are needed now more than ever. From the footprint project in Bath to the district heating schemes in Chaves and São Pedro do Sul, we know of some great examples in our towns where the energy from waste thermal water is being used to heat local buildings. Water is used directly from filling a bucket from the hot spring to wash floors to communal laundries like this venue for the Café of Europe today, where the clothes of the town were washed in thermal water. Caldes de Montbui are leading the way in showing how thermal waters can be the basis for gastronomic and other products that provide employment, bring an added value to the tourist offer, and can even improve the crops in the fields. Looking at these imaginative examples and keeping in mind that the water has been a driving power for the development in and on rural areas, it's easy to link it to United Nations World Tourism Organization, where a special interest in villages as tourism destinations has been developed, and we will hear about this today too. Thermal waters have the power to be a driver for new opportunities and development in villages and small towns, as we will find out this afternoon. And I will now hand you back to the speakers at the Portalera Laundry to enjoy the Café of Europe. Thank you very much.
And as I said, it's first of all great to be in one of our member towns, but to learn that this member town is also part of many villages, many thermal villages around it, and that they are all, of course, here united in Catalonia, is a really great thing to learn. And this is why I am pleased to welcome the marketing director of the Catalan Tourist Board, Damia Serrano. The floor is yours, and the entrance to this building is yours as well.
Mai havia fet una entrada tan original com...
I never have entered in a very original matter. Everything is original in this house, but we have to take into account all the stairs. Thank you very much, Simone. Thank you. I will say Mr. Mayor, but he's not seeing me. President of the EHTTA, Manuel Baltar, we have already heard. Dear members of the association and all the people that accompany us of a Café of Europe, welcome to Catalonia. My role is to excuse the Councillor Roger Torrent that unfortunately can't be with us. And he has shown the interest to participate in all the acts that you will develop in Caldas as a European center of European capital of thermal waters in Europe. And he was very interested, but unfortunately, he can't be present, and I will represent him here.
The ones that are coming from abroad, which I think is most of you. Some aspects of our diversity that makes Catalonia a bit different from other thermal regions around Europe. Catalonia is a country, we say, tailor-made, feta mida. You will discover that there is a Catalonia for you, which is different from the one that is next to you. If we take Barcelona as a starting point of your trip, you will be able to travel among a huge range of different landscapes, from the Costa Brava, from the Costa Daurada, to the snowy peaks in the Pyrenees range, from the cultural areas, from the heritage, World Heritage cities, from a beautiful gastronomy points and rich local products, national parks, natural parks, reputed gastronomy, as I said, the diversity of our cuisine and local products, In addition, of course, these thermal villages that today we're sharing this beautiful time and place with a very rich history behind, ready to face the big challenges of this changeable present that we live nowadays. For me, it's so easy to do my job. I'm trying to promote Catalonia around the world as a marketing director of the travel agency. And I'm saying it's easy because all these values that Catalonia has. But I must say that we need to change our tourism model, to redefine this tourism model. For more than 50 years, the tourism in this country has been an economical sector that has led us to grow. And now it's time to develop our tourism in a smarter way. More sustainable, more resilient, more respectful with our environment and the cultural activities. And we need to regenerate. That's a word that we start to listen a lot, regeneration, regenerar, regenerate. Regenerate our portfolio of experiences, of tourism experiences. To regenerate this portfolio is one of the main goals of the Catalan Tourist Board. And precisely the subject of this cafe should connect with this big challenge. You will be talking about rural areas, you will be talking about thermal villages, you will discuss about the new tendencies, and I'm pretty sure that the thermal village are connecting very well with these new tendencies post-pandemic in an area where the sensibility for the security, for the healthy reasons are on the top of the tendencies. We are reconnecting the wall of the thermal activities with these new needs. So I'm very sure that you will talk a lot, discuss a lot about all these issues. All these issues are creating nowadays in the post-pandemic area opportunities. And I really hope that during today, during tomorrow, you make good use of this beautiful village, this beautiful time, precisely to discuss about this, to give us solutions, to give us new paths, in order that in the following years, we can make good use in Catalonia these ideas to become, again, and keep being more competitive as a tourist destination. So, moltes gràcies, thank you so much, and I really hope they enjoy the café today and this beautiful stay in Catalunya and in Caldes. So, thank you very much i molt bona jornada a totes i a tots.
Thank you, Damian. Okay. So just maybe as a quick introduction, you know, I have been working with so many of you for so many years, and we have seen many new members coming and some going, but some introductions are maybe different from others. And if you have a young mayor coming as a quite new member or a new member introduced into the association, and pretty from the beginning, you see that there's a lot of power and a lot of energy and a lot of enthusiasm for the thermalism. I slowly start to understand, because Isidre Pineda, as the mayor of this town, started with a lot of engagement and a lot of dynamic appearance. So I would like to give the floor to the mayor of this town as the host of this cafe, as the host of our General Assembly 2022. And I give you the floor, Isidre. Thank you.
La veritat és que sí que impressiona una mica aquesta baixada, Els que aneu...
It's really true. The stairs are really right, but it impress a little bit. Be careful.
From all over Europe, with the aim of attending the 5th EHTTA Assembly. Welcome. Welcome to Caldes de Montbui. I hope you will discover the thermal charms of our country. The first thing I would like to tell you is that in Caldes you will find serious people, extremely serious. And we take thermalism very seriously, extremely seriously. And to give you an idea of our seriousness, I share with you this video, with which I am pleased to introduce My greetings.
Do you know Caldas de Montbui? Hey you! Psst! Listen up! You probably know where our hot water comes from, right? Of course, from a volcano located right beneath us. Caldas is built just above its crater. Fortunately, this volcano has been extinct for centuries since baby dinosaurs were wrapped in diapers. Even so, it still maintains the needed heat to spring out water at 74 degrees Celsius. Woo! Now that I think about it, what if it goes and blows up? Could it erupt again? I'm not sure I'm ready for that. What about you? Oh no, no worries. What runs beneath us is the Valles tectonic fault. It contains the leaked rainwater that fell more than 10,000 years ago. Thermal water runs so deep down and it's so hot that it springs out at 76 degrees Celsius, carrying all the qualities it's dissolved from the rocks. Stunned? Would you like to learn more about it? Come to our guided tours. Don't be fooled.
Seen it. We are serious people who don't hesitate to laugh at ourselves. I would like to tell you that rigor, that perseverance, that passion, that authenticity, and also the sense of humor has made the town that we are, a Catalan town that leads the thermal village of our country, that is proud to be part of the most prestigious thermal association in Europe, and that now welcome you with open arms and with the wish that you come and share with us the esteem and the admiration for this land. In keeping with this objective, a large part of these speeches you will hear today will be in Catalan, our language. It's a language with which we combine our culture, our history, our heritage. We want to show you ourselves as we are, proud of our natural wealth and humble in the face of many millenary experiences that you are sharing with us. Benvinguts i benvingudes a Caldes de Montbui. Welcome to Caldes de Montbui.
Welcome to Caldas de Montbui.
Presides over the Association of Catalan Thermal Villages, some which are represented here. The association, together with the private sector and with the support of the Catalan government, is working on important challenges, such as the joint promotion of the sector and the positioning of the mineral medicinal nature of the waters within the country's major health strategies. This ambitious project includes European partnerships and collaborations in the fields of training, health, culture, tradition, among others, all with the aim of promoting mineral medicinal waters as a source of well-being. We stand as those principally responsible for the enhancement of this natural resource that we have the good fortune to share. It is up to work, to imagine, to discover, to collaborate, and to do our utmost to ensure that this privilege that springs from our subsoil becomes an important element for the vast majority of our citizens. And here is an example. Caldes de Montbui has started a study with the Hospital del Mar Foundation in Barcelona on the possible benefits of the use of thermal waters in patients with persistent COVID. In the end, we want to demonstrate what we have always known in Caldes. It's more worthwhile to bet on thermal treatments than a paracetamol or a conventional medication as we understand it. This is what we have to do: provide scientific indicators, projects, policies, actions, resources, and firm commitments to the benefits that thermal water can bring to our citizens. And the EHTTA, this café, the assembly, are spaces at the service of this objective. That is why I offer you my most sincere welcome. You are at home. And now, I ask you to pay attention to where you are. This is a laundry. A laundry is a place to wash clothes, and there are a lot of laundries in many places. But this one has the singularity that it fills up and empties of thermal water every day. They said, and I can testify, from this water come the whitest bed sheets you have ever seen. For Catalans, this is Fes a freig. Fes a freig also has another meaning. It's the action of sharing anecdotes, curiosities, and also false stories about other people's lives and local current affairs. I have already told you, we are serious people, very serious. All joking aside, this was and still is a place full of symbolism about two concepts that I believe are central to this cafe. The first one, thermalism can be part of our life in many different ways and always for the benefit of our people. And two, a spa is a place of meeting and understanding. And today, we are here to create links, to unite our goals, and to work for a Europe freer, more prosperous, friendlier, and of course, more thermal. There is one thing I always say, and that I'm grateful to be able to repeat these days. Thermalism is not only hot water. It's also a way of being and living, a way to understand our village. Thank you very much. Thanks for joining and enjoy your stay in our beautiful town in Caldes de Montbui. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Isidre. And we definitely have started enjoying here, so thank you. You know, the Historic Thermal Towns Association is also certified as a cultural root of the Council of Europe. And it's not so long ago that we realized that we are the only cultural root of the Council of Europe that is actually a member of the United Nations World Tourism Organization Affiliate Members Department. This is great, especially today, because talking about rural development and trying also to put a global perspective on thermalism, on villages, and that brought us to the idea and the invitation to really look what UNWTO is doing about the villages and which initiatives are there. And so it's a very great honor to have Patrizia Carmano from UNWTO sharing with us today her practices. And she is, I have to read this, she's an UNWTO program officer and working for the Department of Market Intelligence, and Competitiveness. Welcome, Patrizia. It's very nice and a real honor to have you here.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Good afternoon. Dear President of European Historic Thermal Towns Association, dear Executive Director, dear Mario Crescente, President of the Scientific Committee of EHTTA, dear Mayor of Caldes de Montbui, dear Damià Serrano, Catalan Tourism Board, dear authorities and dear participants who are here with us today, and also those who are following us live online. It is a pleasure for me to be here with you today. Thank you very much for inviting the World Tourism Organization to join this Café of Europe. Thank you very much for being here with us today. I'm going to introduce myself. I'm Patrizia Carmona. I'm a Program Officer in Tourism Market Intelligence and Competitiveness Department in the World Tourism Organization. And I'm going to present one of the latest initiatives by UNWTO, the Best Tourism Villages by UNWTO. It was launched in 2021 as a pilot initiative. Now it has been endorsed by our General Assembly, so it will be held every year. So it has a long life and a long future, we hope. And if I can use, thank you. So if I can start my presentation, just to go to the beginning, or maybe I'm going to the end. Let's start. Okay, there we are. So as I said before, we launched this initiative last year as a pilot project, and we are now launching the second edition, the 2022 edition of this initiative. It was launched in March this year, on the 28th of June. I'm going to explain you about what we had in mind when we created this project. The idea was to make tourism a driver of rural development and well-being for local communities. The mission was to advance the role of tourism in rural areas and to safeguard the local values, the culture, the natural resources that most villages have, and also to promote an innovative and transformative approach towards the development of tourism in rural areas, also in line with the Sustainable Development Goals and with the 2030 Agenda of the United Nations. Our objectives cover from reducing inequalities in rural areas, rural communities and villages, to fight population, to enhance or to promote the role of women, empowerment of women, youth, integrate all different stakeholders in the tourism value chain, to promote transformative tools and innovation in tourism, also to promote education and skills development in the villages. And with all this in mind, with all these 12 major objectives, we launched the Best Tourism Initiative, which has 3 main pillars. On one hand, we have the Best Tourism Villages recognition itself, the upgrade program, and the Best Tourism Villages network. The Best Tourism Villages recognition aims to recognize those villages that are outstanding examples of rural destinations with important and recognized cultural and natural resources, and villages that preserve and promote the community-based values, their products, their lifestyle, and also have a clear commitment to the sustainability of tourism in all the 3 dimensions, the economic, social, and environmental, and all in line with the SDGs, as I said before, and with the aim of making tourism one of the drivers for rural development and positive transformation and community well-being. The upgrade program aims to benefit those villages that do not fully meet the criteria to get the recognition, but they have a great potential, and we aim to support and to accompany these villages in a process to improve in the identified gaps that we have seen in the evaluation done by the experts of the advisory board. And this will also help UNWTO in helping our member states to further develop tourism in their countries. And finally, the 3rd pillar of the initiative, the network. The network is a space for providing is a space to provide exchange exchange opportunities and experiences among those villages that are members of the network. The members of the network are the villages recognized as best tourism villages and those in the upgrade program. So all these members will be enlarged every year with new villages becoming or being recognized as best tourism villages. And the idea is to create this space so that they can exchange views, knowledge, experiences, good practices, and all with the idea of making the largest rural tourism network in the world. This would also help UNWTO in our commitment and in our role to support our member states to develop guidelines, policy, and recommendations for rural tourism development. What are the requisites to apply? for best tourism villages. First, the village has to be needs to have a population of less than 15,000 inhabitants and have a very low density of population. Be located in a landscape with an important presence of traditional activities such as agriculture, forestry, livestock, fisheries, etc. Share community values and lifestyle, and all UNWTO member states can apply and can submit up to 3 applications, up to 3 villages every year. We have now opened the call for applications. It was launched on the 28th of March and it will be open until the 28th of June this year. It is important to recall that the villages cannot apply themselves. Applications have to be submitted by the National Tourism Administrations. So it is the responsibility of the NTAs to decide which villages in the country will be presented in the initiative. There are 9 areas of evaluation. The 9 areas are cultural and natural resources, promotion and conservation of these cultural and natural resources. And when we speak about cultural, we mean cultural tangible and intangible heritage. Also economic sustainability, social sustainability, and environmental sustainability. That is, what actions, what activities the village is doing to promote and preserve tourism in line with these 3 dimensions of sustainability. Also, the tourism development and value chain integration. It is very important for us to ensure that the village integrates all the stakeholders and also the local residents into the tourism value chain, and they spread the benefits of tourism among all the stakeholders. Another area of evaluation is the governance and prioritization of tourism in the political agenda of the local government. How important tourism is for the village and what activities the village is implementing to promote tourism. And finally, infrastructure and connectivity, and health, security and safety, which have gained more relevance in these last 2 years. I'm not going to go into detail in the areas of evaluation. You can see this in our website. And if we go now to the process, it will be the same every year. We call for applications, so member states can submit their applications online through the national tourism authorities. Then UNWTO will screen the applications just to ensure that they meet the requisites, population, etc. But the UNWTO will not evaluate the applications. This is in hands of an advisory board, which is made of experts in different topics, in different fields, in the 9 areas of evaluation. And finally, we announce the villages recognized as best tourism village in a UNWTO event. Last year, we did it on the occasion of our General Assembly held in Madrid at the end of November, beginning of December. And this year, we hope to do the same at the end of the year. Just to give you some numbers, Best Tourism Villages initiative in 2021, which was the pilot project, received more than 170 applications from 75 countries, member states of UNWTO. From them, we recognized the 44 best tourism villages 2021 from 30 countries, and we had 20 villages selected to participate in the upgrade program. So all these villages are now members of the network, and this number will increase with the villages to come in next editions of the initiative. Here, just to show you some examples of the media impact of media coverage of UNWTO in different international press and media. And also important to have in mind what is the impact of Best Tourism Village. If we speak about average value equivalence, we have 33 $1.3 million in terms of the media coverage. And you can see also the total mentions and visualizations of our video and our website. And I'm almost finalizing. I would like to share with you the key ideas of what means to be a best tourism village. If you are selected or recognized as a best tourism village, it means that your village is committed to a vision of tourism as a tool for positive transformation, inclusive and sustainable development. It also means that the village promotes and protects its natural and cultural heritage, both tangible and intangible. It also means that your village values its gastronomy, its crafts, its people. It also means that the village is committed to innovation and entrepreneurship. And it also means that the village empowers its community and local residents. Finally, it also means that the village is a village that works for the well-being of all the residents and visitors. And with this, I would like to leave you with a video that we have prepared for this year. So these are all images from the 44 villages that were recognized last year. Your village can be the next one. And thank you very much for your attention. I would like to encourage the member states in your countries to prepare and submit your applications for best tourism villages this year until the end of June. And with this, I leave you. I wish you a very fruitful session today. We have very interesting roundtables. And I also wish the organizers a very successful General Assembly. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Patricia. Thank you. It's a real pleasure. I mentioned that our association is certified as a cultural route of the Council of Europe. And one condition the cultural routes have in their structure is to have a scientific committee. I mentioned it in the very beginning. The scientific committee is the part where we also assess new memberships, but where we also create research and expert panels and forums, such as the Café of Europe. And this is why I'm very pleased now to finally ask him to come by my side. The president of the scientific committee of our association, Mario Crescente. This is now your appearance. And finally coming from the global perspective to this cafe and what this cafe means and the idea, his idea to present thermal villages as rural development opportunities. Pleasure to finally have you here, Mario. Thank you.
Buenas tardes. Thank you for being here. First, I have to say to Isidre, menuda que has liado, tío, porque yo te dije que montaras algo diferente y especial, pero esto yo creo que nos ha descolocado a todos, incluida nuestra secretaria general, que se ha saltado el orden, pero bueno, lo arreglaremos. Lo dicho, muchas gracias por estar aquí.
Having said this, thank you so much for being amongst us. It is a pleasure to come back after so many years to Caldes de Montbui. Thank you very much, Raquel. Where are you? Nuria, I can see you. Thank you to all of you. Thank you to all of those that made possible to organize this event.
Thank you very much. I have to do the introduction in why we are here, first point. But before everything, we have to recognize that it's incredible that we are here with a war in Europe. It's totally crazy that we are talking about wellness, thermal heritage, and near us, our colleagues are under the bombs. This is incredible, and a minimal reflection of that we have to do. Maybe tomorrow we talk more about that, and then I don't know how to say, but we remember Ukraine clearly. Well, we go. The background. Many persons ask to us, especially the speakers I call, what we are doing with the cafe. What is that? And now it's easy to explain. It's like a suffrage, talking about thermalists. It's an informal discussion about what we are. But I have to recognize that the idea is not from the scientific, it was for our French colleagues, Marion, Eric, I don't know, Eric or Marion, maybe tomorrow. And they created the idea of the cafes on Enghien-les-Bains in 2013. Later, we have another cafe in Ourense, when we receive for first time the association. Our representatives are with us, the councillors and the person in charge of the mayor office. Later, we go to Royat Chamalier, also talking about heritage and architecture. Later, we go to Baden-Baden, our hosting town years ago. Later, the town that gives us the name, the authenticity, Isabel, where you are, the authenticities are Spa, okay? They give us the names. I insist in that, sorry for my colleagues. Don't exist any Roman text that says Salus per aqua. No, this don't exist. Exist Spa. The town of Spa give us the name. Remember that. Later we go to Fiuggi in Italy. Later we go to Aquiterme, the major. Oh, hello. Later, Bath. Paul is not with us, but Catherine, please, could you represent Bath with no problems? Later to Bursa, maybe one of the most amazing assemblies we have. Many of you remember how we are treated in Turkey and how special was this meeting after some terrorist attacks and other questions that affect the meeting, but it was very, very special for us. Later, Caldas da Rainha. Today, one person knows me on the door because he was in Caldas da Rainha before, from Caldes de Montbui. And later, another time in Ourense, some years ago. And the very special one we have in São Pedro do Sul, because we are in the middle of the COVID, and São Pedro, Victor, Fatima has the value, the decision to make something special. We are few people there, but many on the hybrid format, and we celebrate a great event in a very, very special Roman pools. They restore, recover, and present to us. Then this is the background of the cafes. Well, maybe now it's clear that these guys are crazy, and we are in Caldes because Isidri and his colleagues are crazy, but the crazy things are one point, but there are other more serious, as they say before, question why we are here. And the most important may be that, for those of you that has a minimum of memory, today it's easy to talk about thermal towns or thermal villages, but 21 years ago, it's not so easy to talk about that. Everybody in Catalonia, Mediterranean, Canary Island, in Spain in general, talk about sun and tourism. Beach tourism. What is about thermal? In 2001, the first ever meeting of the thermal towns of Spain was done here. And there are minutes, there are decisions, and with the help of some important mayors, they began to work in this idea. I have to say that previously, in the year 2000, in Ourense, we have a meeting with the same idea. In the place of Leiro, a small village with thermal waters, we create a meeting, but we don't make the minutes. Later, here in Caldes, they do a professional organization, they create the meeting, and they has, on this book, a minutes of that. Here I have to remember Montserrat Domenech Borrul, the mayor at that time, Pachi Vázquez from Carballiño, one of the other president of BITs, and other person that you meet in Termatalia, Rogelio Martinez, the mayor of Arnoia. These three persons was the politicians that improved that. I don't want to forget the technician, Xavier Balbé, that helped you to create this cultural space where you are, and other colleagues that be with us many years ago, as I say, in 21. The second point, please, get up and take a look to your back. Please, get up. Get up. Take a look of your back. Yes? If you look that, you are seeing part of a landscape that was awarded in 2017 as a European Landscape Prize on how they recover that. Then you are in a special place in Europe where the landscape was part of the feelings, the sensation, and the ideas we could feel and experience while we are in a thermal town. It's not only to talk about the main square, it's not only to talk about the main baths, it's the landscape of the thermal village what make us different. Yes, you could sit down. Thank you. Then, second point, Caldes de Montbui was awarded with a special prize on landscape on Europe on how they manage the thermal water and how they recover that, okay? This is the second. And the third one, and especially for Isidre, they create this Catalan Association of Thermal Villages that he talked about that later. Then I give you three possible reasons to enjoy Caldes. Maybe today and tomorrow you find the other reasons you need to enjoy, okay? Well, what is the objective of the meetings? Especially the speakers, I talk why you have the ideas we manage. Sustainable use of the thermal resources was one of the ideas. Talk about the population, very important in provinces as Ourense, but also in other provinces in the whole Europe. A way of healthy living, what we could do after the COVID, Isidre will talk about that later. The new conscious tourism that involve the young people. There are a group of new people that think that not only is Amazon and Pinterest and Twitter and Instagram, maybe life in other places, maybe these young people that look for something more healthy could think in us as a way to live in a better conditions. The idea of the inhabitants, proud to be villagers, and what about the funds? We have to talk about money. What is the next generation for our towns? Where is the money for us, okay? And to talk about that, you have the faces of our speaker, Patricia, that talks before, and the others that talks a little bit later. Well, this is our name, but recently looks like we changed it. And if you go to the web, you see that. Historic Thermals EU. Maybe Europe is not so important and go to the end of the world. But today I want to discuss about towns. Really we are towns? And this is my point of discussion for today. Be or not to be, Shakespeare, Hamlet, village or towns, what we are, okay? Then, our proposals. In general, if you manage materials from the United Nations, there are a lot of difference of what they talk about town. And the difference in number could be from the 200 inhabitants in Denmark or 30,000 in Japan. And from 200 to 30,000, all of that could be the minimum to be considered as a town. If we jump to Spain, we have another classification from medium town or village, that may be the question we are discussing, between 2,000 and 10,000 inhabitants. If you are on the median of that, you could be called or appelled as a village. And if you are in France, they have a fantastic word, petite villes, between 5,000 to 20,000 inhabitants, the petite villes, okay? And this is talking about some limits. This is more complex. I try to make it simple, talking only about the number of inhabitants. And more complex. When we organize that, I have to share with you, Isidre don't hear me, she don't love so much the word, what is rural? Because we don't feel comfortable enough with rural. What is rural in Catalonia? What is rural in the rest of Spain? What is rural in Europe? Okay, I also use very quickly some numbers. From the United Nations, less than 2,000 inhabitants, plus density, surface, or number of villages. If a council has less than 2,000 inhabitants, is a rural council. Many of our members are that, only for the numbers. To Spain, is the same data with another type of interpretation. Less than 2,000 inhabitants on the whole municipality. We are talking also about rural municipalities. And in France, also less than 5,000. If you apply that to our numbers, to our members, maybe most of us are rural municipalities or villages and not towns. We could include here the discussion with the UK. UK talk about hamlets until maybe 5,000 and over 175,000 cities. Okay, this is the jump from the minimum to the maximum. But I want to share with you is that, in my opinion, and in many researchers that manage landscape, territory, and using the land, the sustainable connection between the rural and the urban that we need are the villages. The jump from the town to the countryside is terrible. The medium are the villages. We are the intermediate between the great density urban areas and the natural areas. And our position is very important to make it maintain biodiversity, maintain the relation with the inhabitants and the nature we have here in the surroundings. Then we have to think that villages could be not a worse thing, could be things with a lot of values. And if we move here from our members, this is the numbers, this is what we call active members, the towns that are members of EHTTA. And you see we began in Montaiz Balneario in Galicia, Spain with 600 inhabitants. And we jumped to the end in 105,000 in Ourense. But in the medium, there are a lot of villages with the French or Spanish legislation that we call or rural or villages, not urban, not towns. If we talk about the associate members, it's more or less the same. We have a lot of small villages that are part of our associated members in France, in Greece, in Italy, etc., etc. And curiously, the percentage is the same. It's right, we do it 2 and 3 times, always is the 77% under the 2,000 inhabitants. More than this, on the beginning of the beginning, when we discuss in Paris what are the conditions to be member of EHTTA, maybe someone of you, the oldest, remember that we are discussing you have to use the limit of 20,000 to be part of EHTTA. Because someone defend that over that, we are so urban and not so wellness. Then around that, around this number, 20,000, we are on the right place. You are the right place, okay? Well, go to the end. This is the media of the associate and the active members that insist is always the same. 77% of the total inhabitants are under 20,000. Then the question only for the numbers is clear. We are more villages and rural than urban or towns, European Association historic. Well, this is our map. On the basement you have the photo of all of you. And the question I propose for the discussion today is, EHTTA is covering more than the 77% of the EU territory or landscape or countries. Also, there are problems with the slide. Go. EHTTA members are also 77% villages, okay? But what is clear is we aren't this percentage on the next generation funds. Maybe Enma talk about that, but Ourense is a very special case. We couldn't talk about that in the rest of the villas that we are member. Then talking about our distribution in the whole Europe, talking about the village and the value of our villages, talking about our importance for a sustainable way of living in the whole territory of Europe, maybe we need other paper on the distribution on the next generation funds. And this is something that here only I present, but tomorrow on the General Assembly, we talk about that and how we could do and how we could manage that. Also tomorrow, we could talk that maybe, Simone, we have a new member very soon, and we could help in some way Ukraine to be connected with us. Well, to finish, please connect with the web, if possible. I want to invite you to the next meeting because it looks like LADECTRO could be complicated to meet in October. Then our great meeting will be the 3rd International Congress in Thermal Tourism. And this is when I present Patricia and help her a lot to be with us because our connection as affiliate members of the United Nations World Tourism make EHTTA an extra value for us, for our members, also for our stakeholders, and also for all of you that believe that tourism could be an instrument for development. We agree with that, and we think that working with the United Nations World Tourism, we could have a better future in that. Could we open that? No? No? Well, in any case, había algo, pero bueno, se ha perdido. Vuelve a la diapo anterior, por favor.
Can you go backwards?
The Thermal Congress, you have a proposition of the panels we will discuss about. One will be about heritage. We are historic thermal towns with very impressive presentation. Later, we have another one to talk about tourism, talking about destinies and the relation between public and private, our traditional issue. 20 years ago, we are discussing how the public and the private could agree to develop a destiny, and it's the same 21 years later with all the technical conditions. And also we will talk about experience, because surely nobody believes if we share this photo that we are in a thermal town. Everybody imagine ancient people in a bathtub suffering. No, there are another perspective in the future for the thermal towns, and I think that Caldes could be an example. Then invite all of you to be with us in Ourense in 28 and 29 of September. Thank you very much for coming, and thank you very much to all the speakers, beginning with Patricia. That's all. Muito obrigado.
Thank you very much, Mario. We need some quick sorting. So it's time to slowly look into the practices. And the first one to present you more practical insights and experience is the vice mayor of this beautiful town. There she is. I'm happy that Nuria Carne, as vice mayor and responsible for international relations affairs, European affairs, is presenting this afternoon. Thank you for being part of the Café, Nuria, and the floor is yours. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm delighted to have you all in Caldes de Montbui. I hope you have had safe travel and that you are not very tired because, as you know, the program that we have been preparing for more than 1 year and a half, it's consistent, full of work, full of heritage, full of Catalan culture, gastronomy, and of course, full of thermal water and surprises. I would like to thank everybody for these amazing presentations. And at this point, we are going to start the first roundtable. When we discovered the topic of the Café of Europe, I mentally imagined... El problema és que t'anava passant pàgines i... Saps? Ho tapo. Excuse me, technical things, technical matters. Recapitulant, when we discovered the topic of Café of Europe, I mentally imagined in this laundry because it's a good place to speak about the circuit and uses of the thermal water of Caldes de Montbui. I will do this presentation in our language, in Catalan, so if you need, you can turn on the translator. Ens trobem al safareig de...
We are in the public washer in Caldes. We have had 5, La Portalera, La Piqueta, La Canalera, Santa Esperanza, Escalcina, 5 public washing. And a third, a public wash house. A third one we have turned in thermal baths. As I can tell you that the calciness is with people were washing the water and the sheets of people that were healed. In Catalonia, we take advantage of the water, and we have buildings at this one, the measure of the 19th century, but this one is from the beginning of the 20th century. This public wash house with thermal water is something that avoid to wash the laundry at home till the 60s, where people have got the washing machine. People were used to the public house, the public laundry, and it's in the 70s because of the clothes were very clean. And as the mayor said, it was the time of gossips. People were talking about their stories. And because not all the family could buy and could afford a washing machine in the 60s or 70s, we were going out of the Spanish Civil War. We were in the Franco dictatorship, and we couldn't speak Catalan like what I'm doing right now. Imagine that it was in 1964. You can wash your laundry, but you want a very clean clothes. You get up at 4:30 because at 4 the public laundry was open and the water were very clean. So you will have all the laundry, you put on a bag and you will come here to the public laundry. And there were people that were arguing because everyone wanted to go closer where the water comes in the laundry. And there were people that were arguing because everybody wants to be placed at the beginning. Sometimes there is a nice layer because of the cold, and we have to wash with the soap, and then you go to the small public laundry when you have to wash in order to clean it and to remove the soap. And the clothes, when they are wet, they are very heavy. And many women, because only women come here, my grandmother, my mother, they come here in the morning to wash the clothes. And when they have cars, the husbands took them to come here. But sometimes people had before the car that a washing machine. I came in the 90s with my grandmother to wash the curtains because there were no place in the washing machine. It's an habitude that lasted a long time. This water cleaned the stoves, and they want to sometimes to remove sometimes the clothing machine and the baskets. The baskets, and they were the material they came here in order to smoothing, because you can see here the place where they meet. And as we had hot water, we can do it. And in Caldas, there were 450 these reed builders, and they used the thermal water. As the thermal waters we can use as in order to clean the floors, and if sometimes the hands in order to remove the feathers, and sometimes they took the water in order to boil vegetables, or in order to make that the towels could be smoother. And as water were very high mineralized, they have to dilute with other waters. So there were two to companies that bottles the mineral water. But how the thermal water reaches the fountains, the springs, and the public laundry, the square where we had lunch, there were a well in the middle of the square, and there were all the springs, the old people residence, the temperature 76 Celsius degree and 74 till the spring. And the water from the well, where the water comes from, there's water coming from the mountains of the valleys that has been infiltrated in the eroding the stones, absorbing all the minerals till reaching an aquifer at 4,000 meters of depth. And the water is 130 Celsius degrees. The pressure is very high, and they go up in order to take the advantage of the valleys fall, and coming out at 76 Celsius degree. We have sodic and bicarbonated water. It's because of that the thermal baths, in order to treat illnesses of the bones, the digestive and the nervous problems. If you drink water tonight, you will sleep deeply, and we will discuss tomorrow morning. The water goes out constantly, it never stops, and we canalize the water till this public laundry. And do you think that the water is thrown to the river? No, we use in order to just to water the plants and to water the vegetables. I will explain how we water the vegetables, and we have received an award as a public space. Places where the orchard there are watered, and we have difficulties in order to conduce the waters, because people say, no, it's very difficult to introduce changes. Imagine the days that people watered their fields were written in the public writings from the 19th century. To change that, not that the watering coming to the different channels, it was very difficult. It had been covered and avoid that used waters could be diverse to this river. And we have to warranty to give good quality waters, at the same time dignify this area, because Marius showed it before when he made you get up in order to see our landscapes that were the backbone and the back of the village, because all the heritage has been forgotten. And fortunately, we have been able to recover. We have recovered all this sector, and the promenade, the new spaces you could visit next Friday. And we have to reuse the excess of the water of the thermal baths and use the gravity in order to make that the water came and separate the different uses of the water, for instance, to water the fields. In order to maintain these systems, we have built a very important lake, and we cannot water the fields with the hot water. And we recycle this existing watering system. And we have the phyto depuration with some plants planted in order to absorb the organ bodies. These plants, they don't exist anymore because the water comes completely clean, and the watering is distributed in all the owners twice weekly. We have done a passerelle and a bridge in order to improve the access not only to the owners but the inhabitants. The fields are a public space opened in order to recognize all the fields and the productive to have clean water, allowing the ecological agriculture. According to the data of 2060, the fields are 3.6 hectares, and they produce 12% of the inhabitants of Caldas can consume the products, and it can save lots of CO2 emissions, as you can see. And we have focused our effort in order to produce goods and absorb the waste as decompose. All this work done from the 2013 from the different politicians, we have developed in a participative process that lasted 2 years, that had consolidated the community of the farmers, allowing to create the Farmers Association. We have encouraged urban policies for the public space, having a very sustainable urban landscape without any architectural barriers, and living place to the landscape and the nature, listening to the needs of the environment. It is because of this project with the Town Hall of Caldas, and with a very low budget of 84,000 euros, have been awarded in the German magazine, and the 3 awards, and selected another 4 awards. I hope that you have been interested in my communication. I recommend you the urban garden and to see the exhibit that we will do tomorrow afternoon. Thank you very much for your attention. Thank you.
Thank you, Nuria, for the perspective from this town. Now we look at the area, and I'm passing on in this round table the word to the power group of the thermal villages here. And I am welcoming Isidre Pineda again, as not as the mayor of this town, but as the president of the Association of Thermal Villages, together with the mayor of La Garriga, Dulos Castella, Kenneth Martinez, the mayor of El Bendrel, Sergi Mir as the vice president of the Thermal Villages and councillor of tourism of Caldas de Malavella. Welcome, gentlemen, and welcome, lady, to the round table. Yes, please.
Thank you, Simone. Thank you again. Podeu posar-vos còmodes? Sí? Voleu agafar lloc? Sí. Perquè ara anirem a fer safreig. Molt bé. Anirem a fer safreig.
Sit comfortable because we're going to do a public laundry. We're going to talk in Catalan because we will do the same as women did in this public laundry. I want to introduce the theme of Catalonia. We are a representation of the country. Catalonia is a full Catalonia by its diversity. It's a small country, but it's very nice, it's very beautiful and very diverse. We have many tourist assets, and I can do a round of applause of this thermal entry. Our friends of Spas is a very nice outfit to come. I was explaining to you that Catalonia has many tourist assets. I didn't say too many, but this potential, we have to recognize it, that something that the thermal springs is another asset, is a sectorial asset, I could say, but you represent the thermal sector, which is very rooted in the village because waters go out where they go out, and it is a source of life. It's a source of life for the small villages that see that the thermalism is one of the main economical, social, and neurological activities of the cities. It's a very important value that we have to take into account. It's not a seasonality of our offer. We have thermal water during all the year, not only in summer, and the demand has the capacity and the opportunity to share during all the year in the different cities and towns and villages. I want to say the thermal potation as the health source, a life source in the different towns representing the thermal Catalonia, and that accompany us other cities as Caldes d'Estrac, Caldetas, but those three towns and villages that represent La Garriga, El Vendrell, Caldas de Malaguilla, we will establish this thermal public laundry. And I will ask you, which is the impact of the thermal waters for your town? How do you live the thermal visits in your cities? I have to admit I have in love and surprised that there exists a thermalism of sun and thermal waters in the beaches. I'm very surprised. Thank you very much, the mayor of El Vendrell. Yes, El Vendrell has this treasure of nature. We have a thermal place close to the beach, close to the sea. We say we're touching, it means 50 meters of the seashore from the, it makes unique that El Vendrell, Comarruga, which is the exact place, the Vendrell is the village and Comarruga is the exact hot point of this area touching the sea shore, is a thermal place combining the sand, the water, with 7 kilometers of very fine sand, allowing to make and to take advantage of the thermal waters and the sea waters is something unique. Another combination is that El Vendrell has 40,000 inhabitants, which is a medium and big city. Is a town in the center of Catalonia, in the heart between Tarragona and Barcelona, at 45 minutes of Caldes de Montbui. You are invited to visit El Vendrell and Comarruga. Dolors, explain to us something of La Garriga. La Garriga is very close to Caldes, but it's something that is quite surprising, Dolors. The Garriga, we don't have the sea. We don't have the sea. Is a town of this area as Caldes de Montbui and has the same number of inhabitants of Caldes de Montbui. We have two thermal cities, two thermal center, one and another one small or 22 beds. The thermalism, how do we live? We live in an integration of the dynamics of the village. We don't understand thermal waters without the liberty, the architecture, gastronomy, and culture. Everything is integrated. What we did in order to show our thermal center is that something that links everything. If you come and you are invited, we would like that you take some tourist packs, and there are packs of 3 hours, 1 day, half day, a weekend, in order to make different things of I have already mentioned. And thermal waters, thermal centers belong to all the packs. So the diffusion of our thermal centers is something of the tourism of the Garriga, but we have worked in order to integrate in the town hall, in the city. During many years, spaces as the spa were given back to the city. We can live completely separated, but we have changed. We have to create the interlink to work together, because sometimes they have jobs. We have to create jobs at all the products of 0 kilometer that have a relationship with all the shops of the Garriga. We make a net. And I will give you an example that we have had recently in order to diffuse it. We know that in the weddings, there are many people, and sometimes they spend many hours in the weddings. There are small weddings or big weddings, but from the town hall, as I can tell you that I made these weddings as a mayor, and we do it in the thermal centers, is another in the thermalisms in order to call people, and in the wedding they sell the pack where people sleep here, and there are all the activities that are done in these thermal centers. The idea is to diffuse, because the way to call and to attract is that in one moment of the life people have a contact with the thermal waters. It's what we do. Toulouse was speaking of the thermal weddings. I always thought that we can also be sometimes a baptism, thermal baptism, because we have to explore. Caldas de Montbui has three brother cousins that I will explain. We are four Caldas in all Catalonia. Caldas de Montbui, Caldas de Strac, Caldas de Malavella with the mayor, and Caldas of Montbui, four Caldas. I will invite you to visit Caldas of Malavella, which is one of the cities that sometimes they mix up, they confuse ourselves with Caldas de Malavella. Thermalism and Caldas de Malavella is lived in a very intense manner. It's because of that we are very happy to stay with the different thermal capitals, because the European capital of the thermalism is Caldas de Montbui, but our towns, we also have thermalism. We live thermalism all the year, because you can see how people visit the different thermal or different spas. There are couples that sometimes they go out to buy sometimes the coffee with the guard robe, and sometimes they come and they go out. It's something that they live. They live, for instance, as the water fair, where we speak of thermalism. We open the thermal spas. We guided visits. Sometimes we theatric visits with actors, and something we do with the different spa centers. The Liceu is an opera theater of Barcelona, known and very in all the world, and we do the same. Is something that is an interaction that we see constantly with the small museum, spa and water, and the jewels that are the Roman therms. We live the thermalism all the year. Thank you, Sergi. We come back to La Garriga because the liberty heritage accompanying all the spa centers. And this liberty style has been very important in La Garriga. Can you explain the link, because the thermal architecture and with the tourists? Yes, we cannot separate. One thing goes with the other. At the middle of the 19th century, we started this cultural movement that we call modernism. Modernism is a cultural movement which is integrated of the architecture on one hand. Sometimes we have glasses, we have small tiles, broken tiles, pieces of furniture. Modernism is something integrated from the architectural point of view, with poetry, with arts as music, that are integrated in this movement. That's start at the second half of the 19th century. And the Garriga, we are close to Barcelona, only 30 kilometers away from Barcelona. And this, in the 1873, we have the opportunity to have the train that comes from Barcelona to Puigcerdà. It takes 1 hour, and I have said it lasted 1 hour since many years. But we have the movement of the Catalan bourgeoisie having a lot of money in a few time. They have many advantages in other places as Caldas, but They have great advantages in the Garriga. The bourgeoisie introduces the modernism for the summertime. It's very easy to come to La Garriga with the train, and this bourgeoisie thus suddenly had a lot of money, wanted to show off and to show that they have a lot of money. And we have a promenade with 1 kilometer long when there are many many towers, many bungalows, modernism bungalows. There were people working all the year on the glasses, the curtains, the pieces of furniture, in order that the bourgeoisie has had everything ready to spend the summer. This concept of the modernism of health, well-being, wellness, we breathing pure air, linked with the culture, mixed with the culture, with the 6 different spas existing in La Garriga. It's a cultural center and it's a health center, cultural and health, because they have been huge poets, writers, authors, in order to give the importance, the fact that going to make health compensated at the same time with the culture. Is because of the big poets of that time came great European politicians. So architectural in one hand can't be separated of this movement called modernism of liberty, and in La Garriga, this summer modernism. After Barcelona, we are the city that have more pieces of this modernism. And I invite you to visit.
Dolores, you talk about the relationship between film villages and our culture. If I talk about Caldas de Montbui, we could talk about one of the main artists, Paulo Donoso, that had as a friend Pablo Picasso. I don't know if you know about Pablo Picasso, and we have loads of works that you can visit in the museum, the Thermalia Museum. I think that we're visiting tomorrow. But if we go to Bendrel, we could talk about one of the most international artists, such as Pau Casals, a musician. Well, Catalonia, despite being a very small country, offered many to the world of arts, and we have very enlightened citizens, and we have one of our citizens, Pau Casals, that was born in Bendrel after the exile and the civil war. Well, he lived when traveling all over the planet. He worked a lot in Bendrel, and we can visit the house where he was born, and also we can visit Villa Casals, which is the summer house. Let's say it is more a country house that the family had close to the sea. And tourism, and in Bendrel municipality, started at the end of the 19th century. In Bendrel, Camarugas, and Salvador, we have the first Art Nouveau buildings and thermal spas together with the beginning of the 20th century, and we experienced a boom in tourism in Spain during the 50s and 60s, last century, 50s, 60s, where we witnessed a growth of tourism. And amongst the most important aspects belonging to those people that were born in Bendrel, we have one of the main persons living in our city, Pau Casals, and after the Civil War, well, it was a little bit abandoned, the house where they was born, and Pau Casals, well, he said no to come back to Catalonia while Franco was at power. So unfortunately, he wasn't able to take advantage of that. But today we have a museum there. It is one of the most important museums related with any musician. We could think about a house of Mozart, Beethoven, and Pau Casals. There are very few examples of these kind of houses belonging to musicians, because Pau Casals, it's not only one of the best musicians of the last century, but also he was a fighter for democracy and peace. one of the ones that got the Medal of Peace from the United Nations. And I'd like to tell you, take advantage that Villa Casals today it's experiencing some refurbishment of the structure, and we are also updating the museum, mainly introducing all the digital and new technologies advances into museum. And if things go smoothly and well, when we talk about works, it's very difficult, but in June we will reopen the house and the museum of Pau Casals. So in June you have a great excuse to come to San Salvador and Bendrel at the Villa Casals. Thank you very much. You can give an applause. Yes, why not? And well, we were witnessing the stream of water next to the sea. Many things to visit, like Arriga, El Vendrell, and also we have lots of things to visit in Caldas de Malavella, which is one of the history village of this thermal heritage. I should talk about your Rome spas. They are jewels, such as our thermal spas. We have an heritage for more than 1,000 years, and no doubt, Sergio, we should talk about the carbon waters, those waters that are very similar to the sparkling waters and Vichy waters. Someone from France had a lot of fun when we were having lunch. Yes, in Caldas de Malavella we have an amazing past that comes from thousands or maybe millions of years ago. One of the precious things that we have in Caldas, one of the common interest goods of heritage, we have two castles and a thermal and Roman spas, very similar to the ones that we have here in Caldas de Montbui. Of those old aqua quality, we have the very interesting we will see some remains of the Paleontologic period, and we have a thermal lake. So we have some remains, and we have a lot of remains from the prehistory period of time. And also Art Nouveau and modernism, it's very present in our city. We have a history past, and once you go to Caldas houses, you can visit everything. So you can witness all the heritage, and you can visit many thermal villages in Catalonia. Lately, we work a lot for the history heritage, trying to protect these national buildings, and also we created a very tiny museum, the Aqua Space, and we have two thermal spas such as Pratt's thermal resort, very eclectic with Art Nouveau images, but also we have Vichy Catalan, which is very well known in Spain, but also in Europe, where why do we have a Vichy and why do you have a Vichy water? And the thing is that at the end of 19th century, once we bottled this water, they realized that they're very similar, the both waters from the village of Vichy in France and the Caldas de Malavella water. So they were very similar. That's why we had the name of Vichy Caldens, and finally it was Catalan Vichy. And for many weeks ago, I was in Vichy in France, and people, well, we had another Vichy from Catalonia, and they were very surprised. So, because these waters were very similar in Caldas, the heritage beyond the history heritage and the natural heritage. We are in the middle of nature, loads of roads to take your bikes to walk and to stroll. We have therapeutical forests, and you can have nature baths, not water baths, therapeutical baths. You can have these forest baths. You can be immersed in nature, and everything that you can see in Caldas, it's something that you can also visit in other amazing places. Where we say that thermal waters, waters that come from the center of the earth, we always been very welcoming in Caldas. We love to welcome people all over the world. We say that thermal waters, they come from the center of the heart of the world, and our hospitality comes from the center of the heart. So you can visit Caldas de Malavella. Let me just conclude this panel, this this thermal laundry conversation, right? And the Catalan thermal a way of being. It's a way of being and living. So we have lots of similarities. We have this thermal waters that allows us to understand well-being, because at the end of the day, thermal experiences are well-being and also quality of life. In Caldas de Malavella, in Garriga, as well as in Bendrel, or in Caldas de Montbui, in all Catalan villages, thermal villages. This is what we are aiming for. Thank you so much for offering us this amazing opportunity to tell you who we are, what's a thermal activity in Catalonia. Before Mario said, what a mess you created, but Sant Pere do Sul, well, you raised the standards. They were very, very high. It was amazing to visit you, and the Roman thermal spas are very beautiful there. So I hope that you will have fun. Thank you so much for being with us here in Caldas de Montbui.
Thank you to the four of you for giving us these insights into the double villages here. Thank you. Yeah. Thank you. And to conclude the roundtable and the insights into thermal villages, we just heard a little bit of French experiences. I would like to introduce to you the mayor of the twin town, actually, of Caldas de Montbui, the mayor of Saint-Paul-les-Dax, Julien Bazus. And it's always great to have insights of twin towns. Your floor. Special applause from the French-Belgium corner.
I have support, thank you very much. Unas palabras para preguntar, para empezar, para decir que
I just
estoy muy
like to say some words. I'm very happy and delighted to be here once again in Caldas de Montbui, our twin village for more than a decade. Thank you very much, Isidra.
It's not only a pleasure for us to be there today, but also a great honor to take part to this round table. Thank you very much, Mario. I am. I think there's a presentation for me too. It's for me. Okay, I think it's quite good like that. I am Julien Bazus, the mayor of Saint-Paul-les-Dax, and also regional councillor of New Aquitania, with a delegation to thermalism. That means that I'm in charge to define the roadmap for the next 6 years for all of our 15 thermal towns of New Aquitania, and also, sorry, I have to be there. It's better like that. And also for our 29 thermal establishment for all the region. I try to share with you a little trip in Saint-Paul-les-Dax today, its history, and to share with you because we are there to share what we are doing on the thermal topics. This is this one. Thank you very much. So where is Saint-Paul-les-Dax? I can move or not? Yes, a little bit? Just to show you where we are in France, we are located in the southwest of France, in the region New Aquitania. This is the yellow one on the left on the map. And we are located here in the department of Landes. This is the first destination in terms of departments of France for thermalism. And we are here in that part of the department close to the famous city of Dax. We are between rural and urban. We are between a village and a city because we have more or less 14,000 inhabitants in the city. And as you can see, we have more curious people in a year than our citizens because in a normal year, except for COVID, of course, but we have around 15,000 people curious per year. We have a specific model in France. If you want to be a curious, you have you need to have a papal, It's a mix of Spanish and English. I'm sorry. You need a prescription of your doctor to go to a thermal station, to a thermal city, and to have the cure. This is 3 weeks for a tourist. So we have 15,000 people, tourists, who are reimbursed by the governments every year in a normal year. With the city of Dax, we have 65,000 tourists per year. This is the first thermal destination in France. And for the region, New Aquitania, in France, this is more or less 600,000 tourists per year. 25% of them are coming in New Aquitania in a thermal city every year. This is not a good one. You can have picture. You can observe picture of Saint-Paul-et-Dax just there. Here you have the thermal area. We have 3 establishments in Saint-Paul-et-Dax. You have there our church too. This is a Roman church which was built in the 11th century with antique Roman columns and famous sculptures, which was made in the 11th century, and of course our spa and thermal port in Saint-Paul. Maybe a few words about our history. The history of Saint-Paul-et-Dax, this is more than 22 centuries of history. We have a specificity with geology because before we had the ocean in Saint-Paul-et-Dax, not now of course, but many years ago, many millions of years ago, we had the ocean, and we have famous worldwide spots, 2 spots, the spot of Abbess with unique shells in the world called Abbess shells. They are very white and with a specific form, and also the site of Anguade with animal remains and a big square and so on. During the antiquity, we have a prehistoric period too, with prehistoric people and a lot of silex on a site which is called Abbess, and we have a Gallo-Roman occupation. The Romans were making iron in that part with specific production parts, and also we have just discovered a few months ago a site on L'Estrie district. It's very interesting because we have actually archaeological research on a specific spot. Why is this so specific for our region? Because this is a unique part in New Aquitania where we have 3 periods. Oops, sorry, it was a good one. 3 periods next each one. The first one, this is a modern part. The last one, we have a farm from the 18th century, which we're producing, and which stopped its activity at the beginning of the 21st century. Just next, we have a medieval part with a lot of graves, a church. When the archaeologists began their job, they thought to find around 60, 70 graves. We are today with 120 graves. It's just amazing, and we have to stop because in France, you have a period to do the researches, and we have to stop before mid-July. So we don't know how to do because we have a lot of graves and church organization. And then maybe the best part, this is the Roman part. Because we started to dig and we today just have the shape, but we discovered a Gallo-Roman villa of 2,500 square meters of buildings. This is unique in our region, with production part, with habitation, and we are supposing that there are a personal area with terms. And we are very excited by that, because maybe we'll find with archaeologists the unique terms in Dax and Saint-Paul-et-Dax remains. So we are still continuing to dig. Few words on the Middle Age period. We had 4 medieval quarters and a castle which was destroyed today. And for the little history, we had the King of England during 3 centuries in southwest of France. I send a friendly hello to our friends of Bath today, but the King of England didn't like our people and what happens in the taverns. It was not very, very quiet. El Poble que Boule and Saint-Paul-et-Dax. And so they decided to close all those quarters because of the taverns. Maybe more important, we were on an important stage on the road of Santiago de Compostela. I know that we have a lot of people of Galicia today. And it was a famous stage. The pilgrims stopped in Saint-Paul-et-Dax because of a fountain close to the church, because it was miraculous for them to cure their problems in front of the church, to stay there before continuing the way until Santiago. The modern period, this is the development of trade and industry for us. We had an harbor in Saint-Paul-et-Dax. It was very strategic for us to ensure the trade between the ocean and the inland production. And it is also with the kings, the French kings, the development of industry, glass industry, with also a brickworks industry, tanneries, and so on. Maybe two specific dates for our city. This is 1789, of course, for all France, because it was the French Revolution, and this is the official creation of the city of Saint-Paul-et-Dax, and the definitive cutoff with the city of Dax. Before this date, it was the same global city. After the revolution, we cut off definitively. Another important date for us, this is 1861, because this is the arrival of the railway in the city of Saint-Paul-et-Dax and the building of the stations. At that period, Dax asked to the government to take the station and to do the annexion of the district. They spent 2 years discussing with the government and with Napoleon III, and finally, Napoleon III decided to give the district to Dax. So we lost a part of our city again in 1861. For the mid-19th century until the mid-20th century, this is another epoch for us with a new architecture, the Belle Époque architecture, balnear, the building of balnear villas, regionalist style, Basque and lands, very characteristic of our region. This is the same style than Bayonne, Biarritz, Arcachon, which was very important for us for the thermal marketing of the city at that epoch. Today, we have a huge problem in Saint-Paul-et-Dax. It is that our heritage is in danger. That's why we decided last year to organize a mission led by our officer and art historian called Kevin Lossu in order to protect definitively our heritage. We have monuments and villas, buildings today classified, but we want to have a global area classified in order to protect that, natural and buildings. The next landmark for us this is in September, and then in 2024 to have a global book in order to protect definitively actually this heritage. Maybe a few words about thermalism, because we decided with the learnings of the crisis to take a new orientation. With the region, we decided to take the orientation of medical thermalism. We have two ways in France, tourism only or medical. We decided to take that way with a global concept defined by the United Nations, which is a concept of One Health. Do you know One Health? Yes, no? This is this concept which says that if animals are well, human would be well. If vegetables are well, human would be well too. So this is this global concept of health for human, vegetables, and also animals. And we want to think in that scope actually. And we decided to organize our work around 5 axes. The first one, this is the complementarity of our thermal cities in New Aquitania, because we think that if we cooperate, we are stronger than if we are in competitions. We have various specificities and so on, and so we decided to cooperate and to be very complementary. I remember you that in Saint-Paul-et-Dax, we don't have production units, manufacturing units, and so on. Our gold, this is the mud. The thermal mud is our gold. That's why we have to preserve it and to develop it. We want to make an evolution of the thermal business model, because today occur in France, this is 3 weeks, and this is more or less only for all people, more than 60 years, because for the others it's really difficult to go on a journey for a cure. So we want to do evolutions on that, and we are thinking on new therapies. We want to think about post-COVID treatment, and we are doing testing in our establishment. We're also working on post-cancer treatment. And today, Michel Baquet is here, the general manager of Thermador, which is working with us in Saint-Paul-et-Dax. We are on the 2nd week of the first testings for the post-cancer treatment. This is a revolution for us, and this is also an opportunity to have new people, younger people, to come in our stations. Third axis, we are working on the transition, energy and ecological. We talk about ecological transition just before. We have a target in 2028 to have erased the plastic in our thermal establishment. And we are testing new solutions. We want to use better the hot water. In Saint-Paul-et-Dax, this is 55 degrees Celsius, and we want to reuse this water for the buildings around the thermal area and so on. We want to protect also our resources. As I said, mud is our gold. And because of pollution and urban extension today, it becomes difficult to protect that resources. So we want to protect here definitively the resource. The fourth axis, this is employment and training. And we are working here, we have difficulties with some works, doctors, physiotherapists, and so on. And we want to develop local trainings. This is very key for us. Instead of sending the pupils in Bordeaux, Montpellier, Paris, and so on, we want to develop really local, and this is a connection, strong connection with the rural towns that we are. We want to develop local trainings connected directly to the thermal establishment to have the right solutions to the right problems at the right moment. And the last word about innovation, we are working on innovation, new treatments, what we can do differently with the resources we have today, develop the academic research, accelerate the academic research, and the last point, we are living in the middle age of digital. In France, we are at the middle age period for digitalizations. Yes, I have to stop. That's why I just finished with that to say we are developing a first application for thermal world. It doesn't exist in France. In Europe, I don't know, but in France, it doesn't exist. This is called ThermAssist. This is a new application on testing with 4 possibilities: the medical care, the connection to the organization of the care. The second one, this is the service proposed in order for professionals of thermalism to sell new prestations and new services. The third one is a connection to tourism. And the last one, this is a connection to transportation, because sometimes it's difficult. If you want to come from Caldes to Saint-Paul-et-Dax, what do you have to take? A train, a car, I don't know. We want to simplify actually the life of the tourist and to keep the link all year long with him, sending him push mails, push message in order to facilitate his journey. That's it for me, because it was too long, I think. We have so many things to say, to explain, and to share with you. Thank you very much. Muchas gracias. Merci beaucoup à tous.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Julien.
Moltes gràcies.
This was just the first half of all the exciting insights and examples. On our official program, it says we have a coffee break now, but I would like to encourage all of us to continue with the program, with the special insights. For all of you, please take the opportunity, get your coffee, get your cake outside, but I think we just continue. We have a few moments until the roundtable 2 is ready. So, but just please return and do not take the official break. We continue in the program. Now is the chance to quickly leave, and I just wait for 2-3 minutes and then we officially continue.
Give me a minute. Maybe more technical, but without technical, I have that. Sorry. The technician is not the best, but I try to do. No, I have to do. Please put another one here. To put the second.
Okay. So for everyone watching online, you're watching a creative phase during the Café of Europe.
This is the creative part of that.
So while You cannot see this when you are joining online, but we still return from the coffee break and we use this to have some creativity here. And as Mario is by profession architect, I'm not sure what you are constructing here, but it's interesting. Okay, so in case you don't see this online, we're producing Caldalu. Interesting. N. It's a little bit like a game show. Okay, wait. Take this. So, I'm just...
Here you have your brand. I think you have to change the name of the thermal villages of Catalonia, please. This is an offer from EHTTA Scientific Committee to you. The new brand could be called, with this smoke on the water, Catalunya. And then to finish that, I think only need that. Wait a minute. I have everything prepared. Wait a minute. Smoke on the water, that we have. Okay, that's all. This is the joke. Later we talk about the royalties, okay? This is only for the beginning. Well, we go with the panel. Sorry,
okay.
I broke something.
You talk, I do them. Come on. It's okay.
Then, first of all, we have the presentation with the Catalunya villages, and later we go with the European experiences, okay? You remember what we are looking for when we talk about that. And first of all, and connecting with our last fantastic Café of Europe in São Pedro do Sul, it's my pleasure to present Fátima Saraiva, please. Came down. Fátima Saraiva is the public relation of the town and the complex of thermal facilities in São Pedro do Sul in the Middle East, Portugal, with previous experience as a teacher, but with a total compromise with the thermal sector today. Fátima, thank you very much for coming, and also thank you to Victor. Hello, Victor. Thank you very much. The floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Caldas de Montbui, for having us. It's a pleasure to be here today. And what are we here for? To share our experiences, to learn from one another. And that's why I'm going to make a brief presentation of the municipality of São Pedro do Sul. Okay, the municipality of São Pedro do Sul is located in the center of Portugal, and it extends itself for over 14 parishes in the area of more than 3,050 square kilometers. It is above all known for the thermal treatments, for the thermal baths, since the Roman times, as it happens all over Europe. But through the centuries, it was also used by queens and queens. That's all. But, however, São Pedro do Sul and the charm of the county is not limited to the thermal waters. There are countless other potentials that are worth exploring, namely in the area of nature, heritage, sports, and gastronomy. In this perspective, throughout the year, a set of activities and events are developed in different areas in order to promote new experiences and give a new dynamic to tourism in the municipality, because more and more our thermalists search not only for the thermal treatments, but they want to explore the territory. They want to eat our food. They want to know the mountains. They want to experience the rural activities we have to give them. And that's why in the 14 parishes of the municipality, there are traditions and ways of life where the simplicity of a people is notorious. This spirituality instilled in each task, the life cycle that insists on getting lost in an increasingly accelerated and rational world. Through the 14 parishes, 14 experiences initiative, which takes place from March to November, we seek to keep the traditions alive and provide the opportunity to revive the cultural and gastronomic practices, values, and traditions of the rural world. Also, being part of a bioregion, the municipality tries to highlight the local resources and, as a consequence, the local producers in the small villages. That's the intention. Okay, I'm going to talk a brief summary of those experiences in those small villages. For example, in the parish of Sul, a little village near Termas de São Pedro do Sul, we have the manufacture of the sponge bread. Participants are invited to learn how to make the traditional sponge bread. While it bakes, the experience continues along the paths of the locality, and in the end, there is time to taste the delicacy that they all helped to make. This is really interesting because it is a delicacy traditional from the region. They don't know its flavor, they don't know the smell, but they like to try it in the end of it. Then we have the tradition of manhãos. Those who were with us in Portugal in last May, in our gala dinner, if you remember, we had a group of women singing for us. They are original from this village here, Manhãos, that has the tradition of the singing, polyphonic singing. People are going there, the tourists, they sing for the tourists, they have a brief lunch, and they can appreciate the landscape, the animals, the cows, everything in the country world. And they can go there and feed the animals as well. That is really interesting. Some of the children don't even know that those animals really exist because they only eat them in the big cities, right? Okay. Sorry, because there's a lot of experiences. The resin extraction in another village, Figueiredo de Alva, it's the name. There's still a factory in there, a resin factory, and participants have the opportunity to follow the entire process from the extraction to the treatment, and this is new for them. Also, the manufacture of the cornbread. Cornbread is so traditional in our area. Let me put the right, yeah. they get their hands dirty. They do it. They put the hands on the floor. They do the famous Santa Cruz da Trapa bread, corn bread, following all the entire process, again, from the grain to the bread. They reach the high point, which culminates with the taste, obviously. They need to taste what they are doing. As well, we have in another small village, Pindelo dos Milagres, working the corn. And they put it in what we call canastros, small little houses made of wood. And they put the cobs, they dispose them in threshing floor, and then with the flails, they release the grain from the cocoon. And this is really interesting because they know the source, but they don't know how to get there. And they have the opportunity to know the process. How does this happen? Especially for children and for people from the big cities. Also, the linen cycle. From the sowing to the harvesting, passing through the process, they can experience what later comes into the beautiful embroidery materials that we see selling in our shops. Nothing is left to chance. Nothing, not even the costumes that they use, the tools, the songs of the times, everything leading the participants to another authentic journey back in time. From wax to honey, that's in Kendal. It's the bees' natural habitat, and they have to be fully equipped, obviously, because of the bees. But participants are invited to discover the hives and the entire honey production. This is so interesting. And then they tasted it with some toasts, bread toasts with the honey. That's completely amazing for the people coming from the big cities. Also, the defoliation. This happens in Pinho, another small village in the municipality. They are invited to relive the traditional corn defoliation, a tradition rooted in the daily life of this community. They do this every day, but from those who coming from other countries, because we have a lot of foreign people coming to Termas de São Pedro do Sul, and even from those coming to the big cities, this is an experience that they remember forever. They defoliated the corns and in the threshing floor again, and the cobs are placed in the racks, and they participate in all the process. And also, very interesting, the grape harvest. There's a parish called Vila Maior, where is Quinta da Moitinha, and the owner opens the place for people to go there and to experience the harvest, the cutting the grapes, the bunches, to taking them into the wine process. And he explains how this process works. And afterwards, they taste the wine. That's the third part of the process is the most interesting, obviously. At the end of each experience, we have a small lunch or a dinner or something, tasting the delicacy they had made or tasting the traditional products of that specific village, okay? Then we have in Bordonhos, another small village, what we call carolas. What is this? The rice of the poor. In times where the rice was, the price of the rice was too high, they extracted the food shortage. Obviously, they extracted the rice and they replaced it by the corn cobs that were corn finally ground and then sifted it. And they make a kind of a rice with that, with water and salt and some olive oil, and that substituted the rice. They do the process with a cooker there, and then they eat it. Then we have the orange and the wild mushrooms. There's a small village that we call Valadares, where there are a lot of orange groves, a lot of them. And they are very good, very, very, very tasty. And as well, they have mushrooms growing everywhere. And there is a technician that, as he's showing them the orange grooves, he makes a mycological experience. He explains which are the mushrooms good to be eaten, which are not, their colors, their uses in food, and this is completely amazing. Then, at the end, obviously, a snack is served. We eat a lot in that region.
Fatima,
We really eat a lot.
May I give you?
We have to finish.
We have to.
Okay. We had some more, but just to finish, I would like to tell you that São Pedro do Sul is part of a bioregion. And what is a bioregion? Just very briefly, I'm going to tell you that bioregion is a place, a territory where many intervenients have been asserting themselves as regional development models, particularly suited to territories with the biological vocation as our territory is, where small, medium-sized farmers predominate, and in the other hand, economic and social models that meet the current challenges of the society, namely in what concerns to the need of ensure an adequate food and nutrition, the conservation of nature and nature resources, and their maintenance of the landscape and the population in their territories. Thank you so much for your attention.
Thank you.
Okay.
Now
Please
is the
sit here.
time from Ourense.
Fatima, please. Sorry.
Yes. Now is the time from Ourense. Please, Emma González. Emma González is the manager of Inorde, the institution that the province government of Ourense manage all the questions, but especially tourists. And Emma is going to present to us a project they are developing with the Next Gen funds that we talked before. Emma, the floor is yours. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon. I expect to can follow the presentation. So very good afternoon. I'm really happy to be here in Caldes de Montbui. Thank you for your hospitality. I represent today the province of Ourense. As you know, our president, the president of Ourense Diputación, is EHTTA president, and I bring a very warm regard from him. Due to personal reasons, he could not attend this meeting, but his mind is with us, and we expect you next September also. So, if you could see in the map, we are on the northwest of Spain. We made part of Galicia region. Here we have today Laura, that is the representative in the EHTTA of Galician government. And Galicia and Catalonia are together the two regions in Spain with the biggest positioning in thermal market. And Ourense province and Barcelona province are the two provinces with the highest number of thermal space in Spain also. Today, for this, I have a short presentation for this roundtable on thermal, rural, and development opportunities, because for us, for Diputación de Ourense, rural development and thermal villages are a synonym. Of course, for us, thermal is a strategic sector and a strategic field in our 4 pillars in our tourism brand. We have natural resources, of course, heritage, of course, gastronomy. We have 4 different wine appellations of origin, for example. But for us, thermal is the focus, the number 1 of our pillars in our strategic. I think that now it doesn't work. Thank you. No, one more. Okay, ready now, thank you. And in Ourense, we have 16 municipalities with thermal resources. One of them is the capital of our province. We have here the vice mayor of the Ourense thermal capital. I like saying that Ourense is not the Galician thermal capital awarded by our parliament, but it's also the Spanish thermal capital, because we cannot find in the rest of the state any other capital of province like the thermal water that we can find in Ourense. But Ourense also has another 15 thermal rural villages or thermal rural areas with these resources. And this territory makes the destination Ourense Thermal, and this destination was candidate last year in the national plans of sustainability that was held by our Spanish government, and that together with the different regions, we are presenting these plans, and it was approved, the only one in whole Spain with the thermal strategic that was approved, up to 3 million, sorry, 3,000 would be wonderful, but 3 million that could be implemented from this year and the next 2 years with 5 pillars in our strategy. These lines are the one that the national strategy sets for us: sustainable growth, space and people. Of course, for me, it's not easy. Can I move here? Because for me, it's not easy to follow the screen. Cooperative management and touristic intelligence, product and marketing, and competitive transformation. I'm not going to spend too much time talking about the plan, but I only would like to share with you some some action in this line. In this action plan, we found some actions, for example, the definition of an international observatory, a global observatory for the thermal rural development. This year, we are developing a model, a tourism model, that we would be happy to share with you, with the other EHTTA members, and of course, other international partners in different continents. And we will be happy also to ask to the World Tourism Organization to be the first thermal rural observatory in this network. We also are promoting in the management of the destination quality and sustainable criteria to have this management plan together with the private sector, and digitalization as part of this project, where probably we could cooperate with EHTTA in the part of the thermal pass. For example, we could start with some of these plans. This part of digitalization is a mix with our intelligent destination plan. That this is one of the 2 provinces in all Spain that had one intelligent destination plan for the whole province. This is also another different plan and another 3 million, different 3 million for development in the next 3 years. In this action plan, we also have, in terms of sustainable growth, actions for product and tourism product assembly. For example, the thermal boats, to mix with these boats crossing the rivers, the thermal resources or thermal places with the heritage, with the vineyards, with many other resources. Or, for example, to developing our own dermocosmetic brand. Of course, you are, São Pedro do Sul is a really good example for us, but we think that in this necessity to support very local entrepreneurship and different companies that could work with the endogenous resources of our region, we would like to support them from this action plan. This is an example of the ecothermal boat that we could find now in our River Miño, the main river in Galicia, and one of the biggest in Spain. Following the presentation of Isidre, and of course, we are thermal destinations, so all of us agree in the necessity to improve the research in health evidence to promote our brand and destinations, because we talk too much about the COVID and the possibility to open a new approach, not only in the chronic disease treated in thermalism, but also in the prevention. We would like to be a destination that not only works with the social thermal programs, and we have a really good one, but we would like to open to new markets and to work in people that looks for holidays in a healthy style of life, a healthy life, and we could be the destination choose for these people. We are going to improve new thermal developments in the province, and here was the vice-mayor of Berín, that is part of the Eurocity, Chaves Merín, that we have also in Nerea and made part of EHTTA members. And for example, here in Berín, we have a historical mineral water declaration from 1850 year, and now we are going to have a new one to develop the mineral water, and also in 2 other municipalities. I talked before about entrepreneurship. We talked before about the skills and the possibility to develop new skills in health and wellness tourism sector, and we are going to do this with a plan. This is the historical place of Caldeliñas in Berín. That will be one of the part of this plan. And of course, we will work in another facilities to improve them. If everything is working as planned, before the end of this year, we should have a new open thermal spa in our province. Now, there we have 7, at the moment we have 7 thermal spas, and we are going to start the renew of one of these facilities to have another new that is Berang in Leiro, and Mario talked about Leiro municipality, and this is a very focused on dermatologic issues. And in this line of pedagogical garden, and now I have a very good example also in San Pedro de Sul on focus on the families and the children and thermal. We would like to open a syllabic way and open a pedagogical garden for the families, explaining them the important resource of the thermal water. These are some of the facilities that would be improved. And in Ourense, we have two different models, two different types of thermalism. The traditional, but also vanguard facilities for the thermal spas, mineral thermal, and where we have medical treatments, and also our model of open air thermalism that has become an icon in our tourism, not only in Ourense capital, that is very iconic. Some other places in our province has this model. And one of our challenges is to mix and present and harmonize of these two models to the global markets. Finishing the parts of the action plan, we have, I'm really finishing, don't worry. Product assembly, as I told before, for example, with the Saint-Jacques Way, with some other issues, thermal paths to connect all these resources, and sports and medical treatments. We have, for example, in canoeing, a very good example of how we can receive people from everywhere in the world to train, and they can train every day much more because they get thermal treatments. So this is our objective, and this is an example of how we had present to a European fund candidature the project, and I always defend that EHTTA should be a place where we should use this network to present and I have a new alliance to the European funds, even in an European level, and of course at the Spanish level with the local Spanish members. And Ourense is open. Nuria, me llevo las huertas termales para mi plan. Ya quiero ir a ver eso. Vamos
Nuria, I'll take the thermal gardens. This is a great. We also work in Ourense agriculture, not only tourism.
Assembly and stay here. Thank you very much. And once more, very warm regards from Manuel Baltar, and we expect you in Ourense next September. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Emma, and thank you also, Eloy, from the Cabinet of the Mayor of Ourense, and Armando Gea, that is Councillor on the Municipality and also Deputy on the Government of the Province. Now is the time from Badems. Please, Julia Palotas. Julia Palotas is the site manager of our member of Badems and also achieved the World Heritage Site nomination, including on the Great Spa Towns of Europe high-level classification and a high-level representative for us. Julia just is coming on the new position, and thank you very much, Julia, for being with us. Please, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much. Thank you. It's an honor to talk to you today because just starting my job 3 months ago. So yeah, I think it's very important to talk about the question, what has to be done in the 2020s in a spa town with a long cultural tradition to preserve the existing values and to make the sustainable attractive for future generations. So on this topic, proud to be a thermal villager, but how to interact as the next generation, I would like to use the example of Bad Ems, my town in Germany, to show you what cultural brace surrounds us as a spa town in a rural area. but also what challenges we will have to deal with in the next years. So where do we come from? So, wait. The Romans already settled in Bad Ems. They built forts to monitor the limits, which ran directly past Ems, and they built themselves a fort bath. Even the Romans wanted to enjoy life, so for this they cultivated wine and built the first thermal baths. In the Middle Ages, long after the Romans, the nearby mines were exploited. Mining was strenuous work that wore out the body, so here too the warm springs differed a special luxury. Located in today's spa center near the village of Bad Ems, a wild bar developed at the springs. We have 15 thermal springs, which have been the basis for the spa business since the Middle Ages and have shaped the development of the town. So, with the increasing enlightenment and the rise in awareness of physical health, the importance of the springs grew up and grew up. According to the view of the time, the minerals of the spring offered a terminal recovery from respiratory diseases. The importance grew. The first springs were built over with high magnificence architecture, and the main facilities of the cure were always monocentric, located in the same place at our thermal springs in Bad Ems. So the surrounding landscape was also a very important part of taking the cure. We see it here right over there, how we started our Café of Europe, and Mario shows us the surrounding landscape, which is a very close link to the spa. In Bad Ems, you could not only do good for your body externally and internally with the healing water, but also bring body and mind a little bit closer together with the landscape and to the other amenities which were developed there. For example, visitor facilities, meeting rooms, casinos, theaters, and so on. So this led Bad Ems coming up as a center of attraction and for international regions, and thus also an influx on artists. So who were the guests in Bad Ems? In its heydays, so in the 18th and 19th century, it was the rich and famous as well as the well-known politicians. They were followed by artists of international standing, writers such as, you know, Dostoevsky, the pioneers Clara Schumacher, or composers like Jacques Offenbach were drawn to the fashionable spa town in Bad Ems. Not only well-known policy of diplomatie thermale was pursued here, but people from all over the world and especially all over Europe met here. The social gap between the nobility and the bourgeoisie was closed in the spa towns, and different nations sit side to side here. Churches with different denominations were built, and I think all of our towns are still characterized in the townscape today of this one. So this development was also made by other cities in Europe. And last year, how Mario mentioned, the European spa phenomenon was given a very special significance with this inclusion on the UNESCO World Heritage List with the great spa towns of Europe. So there are 11 most important spa towns in Europe from 7 different countries that comprises as a transnational series the particular sophisticated and international spa towns among the many of hundreds that have been contributed to the European spa phenomenon. Although each spa town is different, we all developed around the thermal springs that became the catalyst for spatial development of curative, therapeutic, and recreational, even as social purposes. So with the change of political structure in Europe after 1918, Bad Ems experienced its first decline. Famous personalities as well as the wealthy customers increasingly stayed away. So if one compares the everyday life at the town in the 19th century with the drinking and the bathing in thermal water, excursions on the surrounding landscape and so on, then you can see if you compare it with the middle of the 20s, it becomes clear. After the Second World War, at latest, Bad Ems developed into a health resort and rehabilitation center for the entire population. So large clinics were built in the 1970s, and there was a shift of treatment. The private cure became more and more a social cure. So former hotels were closed, spa business were promenading, and incredibly rich cultural activity were very rarely limited. So I want to give you some main facts for today in Bad Ems. Bad Ems today lives from its history. The history is actually alive because, how you know everyone, the basis, namely the springs, are still here. The history is an international one. Politics and culture were developed and practiced here. But what does the structure look like today in Bad Ems? The status quo, some main facts. It is located in Rhineland-Palatinate in Germany, close to Koblenz. The small town is situated in the valley of a lower river Lahn and surrounded by a nature park. We also have a population structure which remained relatively constant, about 10,000 inhabitants. But the demographic change can be clearly seen in the representation in the age structures. One can see that the number of the people over 65 clearly exceeds the number of people under 20. So these are facts that make it essential to deal with the future and the behavior with the next generation. When we look at the nationalities, there's a relatively high diversity, a potential opportunity, but in many places also a challenge with the development of parallel societies, average age and demographic change. So today the question arises about mediation and presentation. So to whom should it be mentioned and mediated? Communicating a cultural value is more than marketing and tourism. In the meantime, the population structure has changed. Various people from many nations used to come to Bad Ems and they now live here. And many of these people are not familiar with our history. So whereas we used to live in an analogous world, we now live in a digital world. So how can we communicate our history to people of different nations, age structures and travelers? I want to give you a small example what the World Heritage Convention contains to the education work. Some lines. The basic idea is to preserve natural and cultural sites out of outstanding universal value for the entire world community for present and future generations. This means that a World Heritage Site is not only a heritage, what means a material legacy, it also means the transmission of cultural assets and values to the future and especially for the upcoming generations. The Great Spa Towns of Europe World Heritage designation has not only brought our 11 designated spa towns back into focus, it shows all of us from thermal spas in Europe that we want to bring two important strands back into our consciousness, and this is preserving and promoting. So especially for spa towns and rural areas, the focus should be on re-establishing the connection between the region and the cultural heritage, and even making our traditional history and cultural identity tangible. So it raises the question, in what structure are we in? There are systems that have so far acted in parallel on their own. So we have tourism, we have urban development, clinic systems, residents in their everyday life, association and cultural institutions, each with their own interests. What point of contact can we make that connecting elements can be created? And there are some important parameters that need to be taken into account and integrated. The issue of generation, cultural identity, also diversity of nationalities and religions. Both the formal structure and even the cultural shaping elements must be focused on and to explore to a very important connecting points between them. So we have to build a network to create a knowledge and understanding of each other. Both parts have to merge together to build a cultural to get together. So how is the mediation done and how should it mediate? Don't we have to ask to who are affected? In other words, the younger generation, people educated under 30. Often these people leave our regions because they are not all sensitized to their cultural environment and immediate surroundings. They recruit from us in other regions, but we need them here locally in Bad Ems and Caldas and so on. So what can we do to carry on the heritage and build on it? Opportunities must open up so that, for example, startups can settle here and structures also develops within the city. We need a space for exchange. Infrastructure is very important. Places to encounter must be created. So what were the places encounter in former times is the question. For example, the casinos, the theaters, and so on. And what should such places look like today? What is an alternative today for the former association that often maintained our culture in rural areas over the last maybe 50 years and has conveyed culture, but it is increasingly affected even by the demographic change. So the beginning could be maybe a small cafe around the corner or a bookshop of arts and crafts. It is going to have young infrastructure that allows the resident to live together comfortable. So, and that connects us all. The question of transmitting and conveying yesterday into today and into tomorrow. So at the last minutes of my presentation, I want to give you some future thinking, some things of how to integrate the next generation to us. The first idea is we have a very good experience in our federal state of Rhineland-Palatinate in the field of culture to build a formation of tandems. So young people get a coach at their side and form tandems of two. The tandem exchange ideas and develop basic concepts on individual ideas. So young people explain their needs, vision, and wishes. They build a city they want to live in, and older people contribute their knowledge, be it formal, legal, or administrative. The second idea for Bad Ems is we turn to artists. We asked how they would tell the story that took place here at former times. So we asked it, how should it be so that people in our time can take it in? And so in this autumn, in the year 22, we will organize in Bad Ems a cultural site-specific performance festival in Bad Ems to get together. And the third idea is, if we look to the economic aspects, we lack skilled workers in many places. There's a lack of awareness that should already be conveyed in school. So what health aspects do our sources offer? What professions develop from them and settle here? What is tradition and what is en vogue? So to this end, we are developing programs in different tracks with different funding programs that we want to carry out together with schools. For example, in our situation as with the UNESCO title, for example, thinking of a UNESCO school. So it's very interesting for kids. How have you ever been to an auditorium? How exciting might it be for children to discover these otherwise hidden rooms? A very important principle at the end, we deliberately do not turn agencies in Berlin, Munich, or Cologne because we want to question. We have to be answered by the people who are affected. So to the people who live here locally. We need a greater awareness of our history, of culture, and above all of it, of beauty, and to understand the soul of our town, and very important, to understand the soul of the people who live here. So I would like to discuss with you in the next days and to this topic, what formats can we develop to actively involve young people into our development, and what can we learn from each other? So I hope we have the chance to get in touch with each other. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Julia. Now is the time for Greece. Please, Tania Akriditou and Stavros. Tania came from Halkidiki Touristic Organization. And Stavros, where is Stavros? Please come on. From the Cassandra Municipal Company that manages the spa. Please take the seat and you take the floor.
Okay. Can you show my presentation? Thank you very much for the invitation, for being able to present our beautiful thermal spa. And I would like to thank you most of all for staying up until now. It's late and I know you're tired, so I will try to be short. Just a moment. So I will start my presentation. So let me begin and we will, is it okay? Oh, excellent. With more than 7 locations of natural curative resources, most of which are water related, Greece could be described as a paradise of healing spa. One of them is located in Halkidiki, the thermal spa of Agia Paraskevou. Chalkidiki is located in the north part of Greece. Does it change? This one, right? Okay. You need to change it? Okay. So Chalkidiki is the fourth destination in Greece in terms of capacity, and it's a peninsula of distinct shape located in the north Greece, part of Central Macedonia. It's located near the city of Thessaloniki, and we share the same airport, which has direct flights with 41 countries. Chalkidiki consists of the mainland and three smaller peninsulas, Cassandra, Sithonia, and Athos. Chalkidiki is a seasonal destination and operates from April until the end of October. The region is very gifted to have 4 distinct seasons and experience 250 days of sunshine per year and 18 hours of daylight per day. Chalkidiki offers a great selection of hotels, villas, holiday apartments, ranging from luxury resorts to affordable rentals, and beautiful camping sites ready to please even the most demanding visitor. In total, we have 550 hotels, 2,500 student apartments, and 38 camping sites. Most of them operate seasonally, and they are family-run, giving you the opportunity to experience the authentic Greek hospitality. The 3 peninsulas are shaped like the Poseidon Trident and sticks out into the Aegean Sea. Each peninsula, cosmopolitan Cassandra, natural Sithonia, and authentic and virgin Athos, offers different experience. Lifestyle to remember in the first, escapes in nature in the second, serenity and authenticity in the third. Chalkidiki is like 3 islands in one destination. And it's a perfect intoxicating combination of green and blue. Chalkidiki has the longest coastline in mainland Greece, 550 kilometers of coastlines, whose shapes more than 1,000 beaches. The region offers unlimited choices of water sports like scuba diving, snorkeling. Of course, renting a boat or sailing along the coastline are among the most popular activities. The area is blessed with lush green forests that reach down to the beach. Still, the region stands for much more than its beaches. Chalkidiki is also home to many earthly paradise for those who love mountains. But also, Chalkidiki has a long history that dates back since 4,000 years BC and featured in many Greek myths. One of the most important archaeological sites is EHTTA, which is the birthplace of the philosopher Aristotle. Another unique place of Chalkidiki is Mount Athos, an UNESCO heritage site, a monastic state dating 1,000 years old. Inside there are 20 monasteries, 2,000 monks, and according to tradition, women cannot enter inside. Therefore, there is a beautiful boat cruise that is going coastal, so we can admire the nature and the history of the place. But also, tradition is still alive in Chalkidiki. From traditional villages with stone houses, cobblestone alleys, traditional Macedonian architecture, their charm will take you back to the village life as it used to be many years ago. And now let's go to Cassandra. Cassandra is the home of the thermal spa, and according to myth, got its name when one of the giants, named Enceladus, was crushed by goddess Athena and was buried underneath it. It's considered that Enceladus didn't die at the time, and every so and then, he tries to struggle out from under the rocks, causing earthquakes. That is the name of Enceladus in Greece. It means earthquake. So if anything is reminiscent of that battle is the thermal spa 5 kilometers of Agia Paraskevi in the settlement of Ultra. The first official mention of the area is ancient Scione, who has been present since the 12th century BC. The ancient city of Scione is the oldest known colony Chalkidiki and one of the most important cities in the peninsula in antiquity. Nowadays, we see the remains of the ancient city close to Nea Scione, who was founded in the beginning of the 20th century near the coast. People from Nea Scione at the same period went to Agia Paraskevi and formed a new village located in the inland area of Cassandra, and it's surrounded by a forest of pine trees. Back then, the local people were beekeepers, breeders, and farmers, cultivating olive trees and producing olive oil, which are the essential part of the area's culture. Before the discovery of the thermal waters, in the area there was nothing but huts that served the agricultural work of the locals and the animals brought by the shepherds. The thermal spa of Agia Paraskevi sorry. The thermal spa of Agia Paraskevi were discovered in 1941. The discovery of the source was a huge milestone for the area and created new opportunities. According to testimonies, a local man who was the president of Agia Paraskevi discovered the cave near the beach. He was an educated man with a restless spirit who knew chemistry well, as he made his own soap-making admixtures. The area in those days was not accessible by land, but only by boat. He had a small shelter by the beach, and he could recognize the smell of hydrogen sulfide when south wind was blowing. The smell of hydrogen sulfide gave him the idea that there must be sulfur somewhere near. At that time, it was said that the area smelled like a rotten egg. And he had the idea that he should find the source and find sulfur for his vineyards, as he used it in cultivation. So he started searching the area by the sea, and he found a hole opening cave in the rocks and went inside up to a point. Then he went again with a resident from the village of Agia Paraskevi. After he told me, let's make a very important discovery. So after consulting, they went back to that place. There, he tied him up and sent him down there to explore the inside of the cave. He also gave him a lighted candle and told him, when your candle goes out, due to the lack of oxygen, stop and leave immediately. So it happens. Once he reached the bottom of the cave, he felt warm water. The discovery was made. Since then, the area is called Lutra, which means baths in Greece, and was due to the discovery of their source. At the same time, the first opportunities for development of economic activity in the region began to appear. So, in the beginning, the locals during summer months started renting their rooms and houses, which filled with visitors to stay. And in time, these houses gave place to new hotels. All visitors were transported from the port to the source by boat, and some residents started operating their boats. Gradually, taverns and cafes started operating to serve visitors. Then the first grocery store opened, as well as camping sites. Locals from neighborhood villages brought their products like fruits and vegetables to the bath area and sold them on stalls to visitors. So over time, the area developed and the local economy strengthened. The taverns and coffee were only open during summertime initially, and over time, some of them remained during winter. Around 1965, it was decided to build a house on the hill and drew water with a pump up. This house had 2 circular baths in 2 rooms and changing rooms, 1 bathtub for the women and 1 for the men. There was a doctor there that examined all visitors before entering the baths because the water had a temperature of 40 degrees Celsius. It was operating from early morning until afternoon. The first small facility remained until 2000, and then it was demolished. In 2000, the construction of the new building began, and it was finished in 2002. Thus, gradually, a small but beautiful health resort arose. On the cliff, in a magnificent setting overlooking the Aegean Sea, Monte Spa of Agia Chalkidiki has been born, with its experienced staff waiting to revitalize you, and contains, beside a huge inside and outside pool, referring its water from the spring, also areas of saunas, whirlpool, massage services, etc. It appeals to people of all ages seeking for healing and discovery. It offers relaxation in a beautiful environment. Its main ingredients are sulfur, boron, brome, potassium, magnesium, and various other ingredients. It's very good for all skin diseases, musculoskeletal problems, and gynecological problems. The gutter gases from the surface through prominent rocks from the depth of 2,050 meters at the temperature of 35 to 36 degrees. The thermal spa operates from April until January and closes for 3 months for maintenance reasons. As I told you, the first visitors were Greeks, but after the construction of the new building in 2002, the first tourists have shown up. So now the top 3 nationalities are Greeks, Russians, and Serbians. Although the village is mostly known for its thermal spa, today settlement has become an alternative tourist destination that combines relaxation, outdoor activities, and nature. A composition of unmatched harmony and nature. Today, Lutra is a small seaside settlement of 81 permanent residents, and it's part of a larger community that includes Agia Paraskevi. Apiculture and olive cultivation are the main occupation among locals. Tourism became a supplementary income for the local community after the discovery of thermal spa. Visitors have the opportunity to wander around the quiet and narrow alleys of the village, but also escape to the beautiful routes inside a dense forest. All around the village, smaller food charm taverns can be found in which you can taste traditional delicacies delivered from Halkidiki. Beautiful organized beaches and smaller coves around the village, framed with hotels, rooms, bar, and traditional taverns. Today at Agia Paraskevi and Lutra, we have 9 hotels and studio and apartments operating, and in the nearby area, 15 more. As of what a visitor can do here, the local individuals, who can be described as down-to-earth, full of hospitality, will be glad to guide you through the art of apiculture and teach you everything you need to know when it comes to its secrets. There is always a summer outdoor celebration happening in the area, from international music festival to religious and cultural celebrations like Honey Festival at Lutra or Anchovy Feast in Ascioni, as well as so-called Panigiria, which are the celebration of local saints, usually accompanied by music, traditional dance, local food, and wine. Also, there is an established climbing and cycling festival that takes place every September. And even though tourism is a big part of the local community, agriculture, production, and cultivation still remains the main occupation of the permanent residents. And of course, solar farm is still essential for the growth and the development of our crops. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Tania, and thank you, Stavros, especially to be in time because we are very late. As we don't have time for questions, I make you a proposition that you make the questions on the baths, on the dinners, and on the festivals. This is the time for the questions on this occasion. Then, Simone, I think we could close or not, or what do you think to do? Better, before I get my idea.
Oh.
If not, okay. I don't have royalty.
No, we finish first. Come on, it's okay. We finish first. Don't. We finish first. Okay. No. So first of all, thank you to this panel. It has even widened all the impressions and all the information we received during the whole afternoon. And, you know, it's always difficult to close a long afternoon with such a wide range of impacts, impressions, and ideas. And what has been mostly impressive is that I really feel how everyone presenting and all the different aspects are really looking into the future, looking for networking, for a joint force and a joint effort to bring thermal tourism, thermal villages forward, and really seek friendships, networks to become more aware of what we are living for and what we have to present. And I'm really convinced that together we are joining forces to be on the agenda, develop our themes, develop what we have to share. And this was especially in all your presentations, I appreciated this. And also coming from St. Paul Redux before, the digitalization, you know, to how to make it accessible, how to share it with the youth, and what the rural development, the rural potential of thermal tourism has to present. So this is what I would like to wrap up from my side. Mario, together with you, I would really like to share the final words. If you have some more impressions from your panel, at this point, I would really like to thank especially you for developing this Café of Europe today.
I get some points of every of the presentations, from the connection of tourism and thermal that we bring from Greece, the connection with the parishes that Fatima is presenting to us, how to manage the money. Emma is expert on that, and I think we could understand and learn many things from that. And the question that Julia said, we will be here if we have young people involved. If not, we are out. Then the question is how we involve the young people. More and more time we are seeing more young people here, from the majors to the assistants, and then this could be something that makes us feel more comfortable for the future. Then, thank you very much, and I think we could finish.
Yes, thank you very much, all of you, for being here. Thank you for joining online. And of course, everything is recorded. You can always look on our website later. So thank you very much for coming. And thank you very much, Isidre Paneda and his team, to host this Café of Europe. Thank you, all of you. Thank you.